You have to give a lot of credit to head coach Shane Steichen for benching Anthony Richardson because ever since he re-entered the starting lineup, he's sixth among QBs in passing grade, according to PFF of an 82.9. That's now two game-winning drives in three games. Of course, the Lions, they're probably the best team in the NFL, at least in my opinion, and Richardson wasn't at his best in that one. But there was a lot of good plays on film that showed out. Same thing with the Jets, same thing with the Patriots. What he is doing, being the youngest starter, well, I guess Drake May is now, but okay, fine. The second youngest starting quarterback in the NFL right now. Didn't have much starts in college, certainly hasn't had much starts at the NFL level, but he seems to be getting better and better. He's now showing up earlier and earlier, staying later and later, taking it more seriously. Richardson always loved football, but the benching showed that, hey, look, this league is legit. You got to take it seriously. You got to be at your best. You got to set a good example for your teammates. And ever since then, Richardson's responded in a big way. You can tell he's just playing the game differently now. We also can't just discredit the fact that even before the benching, the Colts were in every single game with Richardson starting. So the Packers game, they lost that by 6. The Texans week 1, they lost that by 2. Got hurt in that first drive against the Steelers, which was the best first drive of his NFL career. And then you got to go all the way to the Dolphins game, which they won. Texans game, they lost by 3. Minnesota, well, he didn't play. Minnesota didn't play against Buffalo. Beat the Jets. The Lions is the one game Richardson's started in that we haven't been in one score in the Patriots game, that game-winning drive. So Richardson, he's starting to legit make plays. The first time since Andrew Luck, the Colts have had a quarterback who just off of his raw ability can go out there and win the games on the line, be able to win you that. Now, of course, he's not Andrew Luck. I mean, Luck's one of the best quarterbacks to ever play. Same thing with Peyton Manning. But Richardson, if he hits his ceiling, he's going to be able to do things that no quarterback has ever been able to do. He's basically going to be like Cam Newton if you think about it, but even better, at least from what we've seen. Because the goods, the highs are high. There is lows though, like the 2 interceptions being a little bit too aggressive. But Richardson, he showed touch, that pass to JT, that touchdown to Alec Pierce on the final play of the game before the 2-point. And Richardson's balling right now, and the Colts have a legit chance to make the playoffs. I think as long as he stays healthy and improves, the Colts are going to look at the season as a success. Sure, we haven't won the division in a long time. I think 2014. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been over 10 years since actually the last time we won the division. Making the playoffs would be great, but we're only going to go as far as Richardson can take us. That's why I was confused about the decision to start Flacco for at the time the rest of the season, because how are we going to grow as a franchise doing that? But Richardson, he needed that. He just needed a wake-up call, realizing that the NFL stands for not for long, or just technically, obviously stands for the National Football League, but it seems like it's not for long because guys, they come in the league and they leave just as quickly. But Richardson, you take a look at his numbers, he has the highest drop percentage in the NFL since 2015 at 14%, second highest throwaway and batted slash hit his throw percentage 11% in the league, fifth highest pressure percentage 41.3%, 2 game-winning drives of course in 3 games, 3 fourth downs converted to beat the Pats on the final drive. Richardson, you take a look at the plays he was able to make with his legs. He picked up 2 of those 3 fourth downs with his legs. The first one was a design run to the left. The second one was him rolling to his right. Could have ran it for a first down, but he found a wide open Molly Cox who caught it and wisely got down just to secure the ball. And then the third one was to Alec Pierce on 4th and goal. Gotta have it. That was his third progression. He put a nice touch on it and was able to put the Colts within 1. Shane Steichen rolls the dice, says, hey, look, we're going to go for 2. We believe in Richardson. And what does he do? He has an option play. The linebacker was bit on JT, and Richardson just took it up the gut. There was great blocking, and he scored. You got to give credit to Mark Glowinski, give credit to Quentin Nelson, all these rookies on the line. I mean, they played their asses off, and I don't think they've been the best in terms of pass protection, but run blocking has been great, and that's why we saw Richardson and JT have really one of the best games combined of their young careers. We haven't played much together, but JT goes 25 or 96. Richardson goes 9 for 48. And of course, the Colts, they were giving the ball over and over again to JT. There was one time where it was literally just 4 straight, 5 straight, just up the gut, make a play. And eventually the Patriots, they started to bite on it, and that just opens up everything else. That's why I was so excited when the Colts ended up extending JT, because I was thinking this is perfect for Richardson's development, because all eyes are going to be on Jonathan Taylor, especially in the months of December and January. No running back in NFL history averages more rushing yards per game than JT. So now teams are biting on that because JT is so brilliant. The linebacker bit on that, and Richardson kept it and just scored. So I know it's easy to say it's Richardson. He's 6'4", 255. He's obviously getting it. But if you just sell out on Richardson, stack the box, well, what if it's a pitch to the outside? Because the Colts ran a pitch on 3rd and goal prior to that touchdown to Pierce. So we just have a lot of ways to beat you offensively. Will the Colts make the playoffs? I don't know. The schedule is in our favor, but at the same time, the defense has just not impressed me. Richardson, although he's showcased a lot of potential, he's still ways away as a passer. You compare Drake May to Richardson, it's not even close. So I don't know. But what I do know is that if you're a Colts fan, you sure as hell better be rooting for the Broncos tonight. Or excuse me, definitely not. You want to be rooting for the Browns, because if the Broncos win tonight, they're going to go to 8-5. And now it becomes a must-win game against them in week 15. We should be looking at it as a must-win game regardless if they win or lose tonight. But if they do win, you have to beat them, because you lose that game, you're literally out of the playoffs. Because even if the Broncos lose their next 3 and the Colts win their next 3, they finish with the same record, and the Broncos would have the tiebreaker. That's confusing. Browns, Broncos, whatever, man. 2 teams that are in completely different spots, obviously. But just looking at that game, it's just going to be a battle of the fronts. The Broncos have an elite offensive line. They've got an elite defensive line. We know the Colts have an elite defensive line. Offensively, that was supposed to be one of our biggest strengths, but it just hasn't performed well this season because of injuries. So hopefully with the bye week, the Colts can get healthier, because starting 3 rookies on the offensive line, that's just a recipe for disaster. You're not beating the Broncos that way, so we're going to have to get guys back. I mean, and we're without some Pro Bowl level players. I mean, we're talking about being without, of course, our starting center, Ryan Kelly, who's on the IR. He is a pending free agent. I highly doubt he's going to return. And then Bortolini got injured, so we had to go to Danny Pinner, 3rd string. Glowinski got the start, thankfully, over Dalton Tucker, who was just flat out terrible against the Lions. No surprise there. Will Fries is still on the IR. He was solid for us. Braden Smith, wouldn't call him a Pro Bowl player necessarily, but he's pretty good. But Matt Goncalves has stepped in. He's been versatile. He can play guard. He can play tackle. And then Bernard Ryman is back and healthy, which is a big-time addition. I thought he was one of the more underrated left tackles in football last season. Of course, we've got Blake Freeland, who was a former, was he a 3rd or 4th round pick? I don't even remember. I should know that as a dire Colts fan. He was a 4th round pick back in 2023. I just remember him getting killed by Aaron Donald. I know it's Aaron Donald, but last season, that Rams game, I mean, they would just line him up on Freeland every single time. So offensive linemen get injured very frequently, so having depth is huge. And you got to give credit, these Colts rookies have stepped up. It's a tough task, but for us to reach our ceiling, we've got to get healthy. I also haven't even called Josh Downs' name yet. He did not play against the Patriots, of course, with that shoulder injury. So with the bye week, and then you'd have to imagine he will be out there against Denver in what's a must-win game. So best case scenario for the Colts tonight is the Broncos lose. I don't think they will, so they'll go to 8-5. And then if the Colts beat them, they'll go to 8-6. The Colts will go to 7-7. And now you're just looking at them against the Chargers on the road, at Cincinnati, and then versus Kansas City. The Chiefs will be playing Week 18 because they're going to be competing for the 1 seed with the Bills. So I find it very hard to believe that they will not be trying in that game. Week 17 at Cincinnati. To that point, the Bengals might be eliminated from the playoffs, but they're still going to go out there and try to win because, I mean, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown, like, they've got a good offense, so that game's gonna at least be competitive. And then at Los Angeles, the Chargers, that's a good game for us, man. I think the Chargers match up well with them. So yeah, we're just hoping that the Broncos lose every single game that they play the rest of the year. That's the best case, because the Colts, I mean, they can still win the AFC South division, so the Broncos can get that 7th seed, and then the Colts can get the 4th seed. The Texans can fall out, but yeah, it's just not realistic, man, if I'm being honest, the 8-5 Texans right now. I know technically speaking, if the Broncos win tonight, they'll also be 8-5, but it's also who remains on each team's schedule. The Broncos, they've got us, Los Angeles, Cincinnati, Kansas City. The Texans have got Miami, Kansas City, Baltimore, and Tennessee. If the Texans end up losing 3 of their next 4 games, that would put them at, 9-8? And we can win our next 4 games and go 10-7 and win the division. But are the Texans going to lose 3 of their next 4 games? I don't know. We'll wait and see, but it's going to be fun.